An exit interview for Tennessee's longest-serving statewide official. So we've got a lot to talk about, but before I ask you my questions, I kind of want to open the floor and ask you, is there anything on your mind to say?
What a privilege it's been. I know that people must look at politics today and think, oh my goodness, let's hide the children, but that's not really the way I feel. I mean, I suggest you look at Washington, D.C. as a split-screen TV, and on the one side you see all the pandemonium and tweets and confirmation process, and on the other side, what you don't see as often is senators working together to pass the Great American Outdoors Act to help the Smokies, to build up the Oak Ridge Laboratory, to fix No Child Left Behind, to help songwriters be paid fairly. That's going on. So I get up almost every day thinking I have a chance to do something to help the country, and I go to bed most nights thinking I have. So what I'd like people to know is that it's been a real privilege to be a United States Senator.
Is there a bit of advice in there for us to maybe don't always focus on the bad?
Well, I'm not going to tell you how to do your job. I mean, if an airplane crashes, that's news. If it takes off safely, it's not. I understand that. It's not as spectacular. But I've never wanted to see how much news I could make by taking the headline of the day and taking the most extreme position on it. What I felt I should do is work with the president or of either party, whether it's President Obama or President Trump, wherever I could to help the country succeed, and I think I've been able to do that.
And I do want to talk about your time in the Senate a little further. I do have some, I guess, current event questions that I'd like to knock out. And the first being the race for the White House. I know you've been asked this. Sure. Given what we now know from Georgia, given the recent news out of Pennsylvania from multiple judges, I mean, this morning, do you consider Joe Biden president-elect?
Well, the race is rapidly coming to a formal end. The states are finishing recounts, courts resolving disputes. Most states will have certified their votes by December 8th, and since it appears that Joe Biden apparently will be the president-elect, I think it's important that President Trump take pride in his accomplishments, say to President-elect Biden, if he turns out to be on December 14 when the electors meet, congratulations, and have a prompt and orderly transition to help him succeed.
You said take pride in his accomplishments. That leads me to my next question. How do you rank the last 4 years?
Let's take specific things depending on your point of view. I think the president can be proud of his large number of conservative judges. By that I mean those who will follow the law instead of make it up. Lower taxes, fewer regulations, great economy before COVID hit. And even though we've all struggled with COVID, what's happened in the development of vaccines that are 95% effective within 8 months instead of 8 years is also a great accomplishment. So I think he's had a number of significant accomplishments that he can be proud of if he turns out to be a one-term president.
When I think about Tennessee's first two-term governor, Secretary of Education, candidate for president twice, and then of course your time in the Senate, my question is why? What is it about public service in you that says keep going?
Well, we're sitting here in Maryville High School. I grew up 2.5 blocks from here, went to church across the street. I mean, my parents taught me that life is a gift and you're supposed to make something of it. And they taught me to respect public service. My dad took me to the courthouse to meet Howard Baker Sr. when I was 10 years old. He was our congressman then. And I thought I had just met the most important person I was ever likely to meet other than my father and the preacher. So I was raised to respect our country, to follow good values, and to respect public service. So when I had a chance or an aptitude to be elected to something, I thought, well, here's my chance to do something good. Hopefully leave some footprints that help the state, help the country.
Class of 1958?
Class of 1958.
You were class president?
Yes.
So from class president here in Maryville to presidential candidate to working with several presidents, I mean, ever come as a shock to you, all that you've been able to do in your career?
Not a shock, but I think how lucky I've been. I mean, I've had the best seat in the House for a long time. I mean, I've watched Tennessee over the last 40 years go from low family incomes, poor roads, low aspirations to confidence. Number one auto state in many ways, best roads in many ways. I've had a chance to work with several presidents to fix No Child Left Behind, to help the parks, which I love, the Smoky Mountains.
I was looking back at your time as governor. You were sworn in early because of the controversy going on with Governor Blanton. The Democrats really were a big part of getting you sworn in early. Any parallel? So that's proof that things haven't always been roses. There's always been a little controversy. And do you see any parallels between '79 and 2020?
I think they're different. The parallel I'd like to see more of is the attitude that Ned McWhorter, who was the Democratic Speaker, took when I was elected governor. Everybody down in Nashville was a Democrat then. I was this upstart new 38-year-old Republican governor, and the reporters said, well, Mr. Speaker, what are you going to do with this new young Republican governor? He said, I'm going to help him, because if he succeeds, our state succeeds. And I'd like to see President Trump say that to President-elect Biden if that's the way it turns out after December 14, because that's what Obama said to President Trump. Our country succeeds when our president succeeds, which is when people wonder why I work with President Obama, because he has liberal policies. I want him to succeed wherever we can agree. And same with President Trump, even though I may not agree with all of his behavior, I want him to succeed for our country. And we should all want that for our presidents.
That willingness to work with lawmakers from the other party is why many political pundits consider Alexander a moderate.
I don't think of myself as moderate. I'm result-oriented. I like to make things happen. So if I want to fix No Child Left Behind in the United States Senate, I have to get Democrats to work with me to do that. That doesn't make me moderate. I've still got conservative principles. They've probably got liberal principles, but I want to get a result. Same with the 21st Century Cures. Same with the Great American Outdoors Act. We had a group of maybe 10 senators, half Republican, half Democrat, who worked together with President Trump to do it. That didn't make us moderates. It just made us wanting to do something for the good of the country.
What does the future look like for uninsured Americans? I mean, Tennessee still has hundreds of thousands of people with no insurance. And the option to expand Medicaid is still there. We'll see what happens in the next legislative session, but all that costs money. What is the solution to get more Americans insured?
Well, one solution is for Tennessee to take advantage of the federal Medicaid law, because in a quirk of the law, because the state didn't expand Medicaid, the people who are left out of health insurance are the poorest people, the people who you'd want to help first. The second is to lower the cost of insurance for those people who don't have Obamacare subsidies, the farmer, the independent contractor, the songwriter who might be paying $20,000 a year for their insurance. I had a bill to do that, all worked out with Senator Murray and the Democrats, and they got stuck at the very end over the politics of abortion, unfortunately. It was the best bill I worked on in the last 18 years that didn't become law. President Trump was very helpful with it, we just couldn't get it done.
You, many times over the last 4 years, have pushed back on things you didn't agree with that the administration might be doing. Immigration ban on Muslim majority countries, the national emergency declaration, and most recently what happened in Ukraine. You voted not for impeachment, but you did condemn the president for the call. And I'm just curious how difficult that is in your position, representing a state where that administration is so popular.
Well, I just tried to do what's right. I learned a long time ago that you can't make everybody happy. And so when the tough one comes up, I just say, okay, what would be the right thing to do? That may sound very naive, but it's usually the best guide. It's not very hard to do that. And what I hope is that Tennesseans respect me for trying to do the right thing. They may disagree with me, or they may agree with me. But for example, in the impeachment, I thought President Trump's call was completely inappropriate. You don't call up the president of another country and try to get him to investigate your possible opponent, and it's clear he did it. But I also thought it was clear that that's not grounds to impeach him, take him from office, and take him off the ballot. I thought we should leave to the people that decision, and that was especially true because the impeachment was so partisan. Unlike the Nixon impeachment when Republicans and Democrats were involved, in this case it was just an all-Democrat show, and if you do that coming over from the House, you're going to get a partisan response from the Senate. I do know that when I said that I thought he did it, but he shouldn't be impeached for it, that a great number of the other senators agreed with me, even though they didn't say it.
While he leaves a seemingly divided Washington, he says history tells us that isn't a recent development.
We have to learn to live with the internet democracy. I mean, what's really different today is not the politics, not the acrimony. If you go back in Tennessee, Parson Brownlow's daily comments around the Civil War era were every bit as abrasive as President Trump's. And even the founders, Jefferson and Adams, had as big differences of opinion as politicians in Washington do today. But we didn't have an iPhone to tweet it out to 72 million people at once. And somehow we've got to learn to live with that, because that drives the political parties to the left and to the right. It makes it hard to talk to each other and hard to work in the middle. It still can be done. I do it every day, and so do lots of other senators. But it's harder to do. But on the other hand, no one should think that this is the first time our country's ever been divided. We've always been divided. I mean, we've had more diversity than any other country in the world. But what's different about us is we have been the one country that's taken all that diversity and turned it into one country. And that should be the challenge. You know, our motto is E pluribus unum. We need a little less pluribus and a little more unum.
Will you miss D.C.?
No, not really. I'll miss the friendships. I'll miss getting up every day and thinking I could do something important for the country, and going to bed most nights thinking I have. But I'm looking forward to being back in Blount County.